Hello everyone, I'm Jordana Van of Ravenlight Holistic Healing, and welcome to part 2 of my 4-part video series on energetic protection for healers and intuitives and counselors and pretty much anybody who works with energy. If you haven't watched part 1, you're going to want to go back and do so because otherwise this might not make a lot of sense. So I've created these videos to answer one of your most frequently asked questions, which is if I'm a healer or an energy worker or an intuitive, etc., etc. How do I keep myself from picking up my client's energy, and how do I prevent myself from having my own energy drain? And in the last video, what we talked about was that this happens because we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, and that there are a number of reasons we allow ourselves to be vulnerable. So in this video, we're going to talk about 2 of those reasons. So let's look at the first, which is over-identification with the client. Most of us, in some fashion, are going to see ourselves in our clients. We've been where they've been. We've felt what they've felt. They are in pain now, and we were in pain, and they're lonely, and we were lonely, and they're confused, and we were confused, and they're scared, and we were scared. And so we remember the experience of being in this place and then seeking help from medical practitioners or other spiritual practitioners or just friends, and we were disappointed or we were rejected, and it was painful and it hurt so much when it happened, and it felt like nobody cared and nobody understood us at all, and we were scared and lonely and sometimes in extreme despair. And so we feel this when we look at our client because they're indicating that they feel this, and that's what we felt, and it's awful. And if we didn't experience this, and we probably know somebody who did, and it was so hard to stand by and watch them hurt. Conversely, we may have been in one of those places that I just talked about, and somebody rescued us. And so we see the client and they're suffering in the way that we were suffering, and so yay, we think that they need to be rescued too. But guys, the client isn't you. Many of us really make this mistake of assuming that because the client is in a state of suffering and is saying all the same things that maybe we said, that they are ready to heal like we were. And this is often not true. Just because it looks like a client felt the way that you did, or even if you feel into their energy and you go, oh, that feels the way we feel, it's not necessarily the case. And this can be a huge source of suffering for us, and a lot of the place where we take on all their energetic toxicity because we think that they are ready to change or ready to heal when they're not. Now, illness serves a very important purpose. It tells us when something we feel or we believe isn't good for us. And if the person isn't ready to change their feelings or their beliefs, then a lot of times they don't heal. Either their body doesn't allow it, or the universe steps in and goes, oh no, it would not be good for them to heal at this time. And yet, as practitioners, often what happens, because we over-identify, is all we see is the illness and their desire to be out of pain and suffering. And so we think that, well, when we were in that place, we want to change, so they must want to change. And so we just keep giving and giving and giving and giving and thinking that somehow the problem is that we are not giving enough, when really the problem is either that the client's issue is not what you thought it was because you were putting yourself in the client's shoes and you didn't belong there, or because the client actually doesn't want to change and all they really want is for you to keep taking care of them. I run into this a lot where people are in suffering, but they don't want to change. They want to be victims because it's a lot easier to be a victim than it is to become empowered and make changes for ourselves. And so what used to happen was I would see them in suffering, and I remember suffering like that. And so I would just keep going, well, I'm just going to keep giving and giving and giving, and every time you ask, I'm going to give because you were suffering, and I know somewhere in there you want to change. And they didn't. And it wasn't until I started to go, oh wait, they're not me, that I was able to actually start making a real difference, and where I was able to start physically feeling better after sessions. So you're going to know when you're in this situation where the client isn't where you are or were, because you're going to feel it. You're going to feel a sense of internal resistance to giving more. And even if it seems illogical or even rude, you have to learn to recognize that feeling and honor it. And so this is the point at which you stop trying to give, and where it's really useful to tell the client outright, okay, look, I don't think this is working. Somehow you're experiencing resistance to what I'm saying or what I'm doing. And so can you tell me about this? So what happens here is you're getting yourself out of the place of thinking that they're the same as you are, if you've been there. And it's also a really excellent way to refocus the session in a way that is more likely to help the client. Because this is where they might say something that makes you go, oh my gosh, wow, they're not me. Or you're going to realize very quickly that they actually aren't invested in changing or healing. Because when you ask them this question about, can you talk to me about this? They're not really going to know what to do with that question, and they're going to just keep begging you to fix them. So it is really, really important. The client is not you. Even if they are suffering in the same way that you are suffering, even if they say they are in need, they are not you. They are themselves. And you need to start tuning into what they are really experiencing at this moment instead of using yourself as a filter. And we all make this mistake. Even I do this still sometimes. So it's just something to consistently be aware of. Now, when we over-identify, we start doing something else that makes us vulnerable. And that is that we take responsibility for how the client feels. We think, well, they're coming to us for help in the way we may have gone to others, or, hey, they're paying us for this service. And so it is our job to do everything possible to make their illness and their pain and their sadness and their fear and their confusion and their mistrust go away. And because most of us are empaths too, we know when they're feeling these things, and this makes it really tough because we don't want to feel in pain and miserable, and we don't want them to feel in pain and miserable, and when they feel in pain and miserable, we feel in pain and miserable. So you've got the added bonus of actually having to feel all that stuff out there. And so here you're going, okay, I want to do everything to fix you, and you don't feel good right now. And so I am going to stay tied into you until you feel better. And so even after the session, we're tied into them. And we are worried about how they are feeling and whether or not they will get worse or get better. And we start to feel sick and scared and angry, and we dream about them, or we can't stop thinking about them. And when we do this, we are making how we feel about ourselves contingent on how they feel. Because if we've decided that we have to save them from feeling bad, and they feel bad, then we failed, right? And so because we want to protect ourselves from feelings of failure and all the guilt and fear that creates, what we have done is actually thrown open this energetic door inside ourselves. And this communicates to the client on an energetic level that how you feel, how I feel, is contingent upon how the client feels. It's really that simple. You think you're responsible for how they feel, and that if they don't feel good, you can't feel good. And so 3 things happen. 1, you are literally taking the burden of their icky emotions into yourself. You are saying, well, I am here to make you feel better. You don't feel good. I can't make those emotions go away, but I will take them from you. So dump all of your toxic waste here. Please, let me have it. The second thing you're doing, and by the way, when you do that, you're going to know because you're going to feel like you've been coated in slime, and you'll probably have one heck of a headache. And your nose will get stuffy. It's really quite horrendous. So the second thing is you're basically telling them, when you've got this energetic door of yours wide open because you're in I'm going to save you complex, you're saying, hey, send me constant updates about your feelings because I need to know if it's okay for me to feel okay about me. And I have decided that how you feel tells me how I can feel, so keep it coming. I'm just going to keep this door open. You keep telling me. And this is when we get the obsessive thinking and the dreaming and the really bizarre mood swings and the rage. Not fun. The third thing that happens when you have that door wide open is you've basically, it's like you're this big tapestry. and there's this one little thread that if you pull on that thread, it'll unravel the whole thing. And you've told them, here, hold this. And I just want you to keep taking from me whatever you need, because you know how you feel is my responsibility. And if I'm not able to fix you right now, well, I need to fix you in the future. So you just keep taking whatever it is that you want. Just keep on going. And I'm just going to stand here and let you do that. You guys can see where this becomes a problem, right? So how on earth do you stop doing this when your job is supposedly to help people or to heal people? And how do you stop caring about how someone feels without being a bad or selfish or totally callous person? So I'm going to tell you guys a really liberating truth. How they feel and whether or not they heal isn't about you at all. You don't actually have the power to affect someone's feelings. You don't. They are the only ones. How someone feels is a function of how they perceive an experience, not the nature of the experience itself. So you could have done everything right, and they could still have interpreted your assistance as insufficient or not liked what you had to say, even if it was the truth. So you're not a failure if they don't feel better after working with you. Sometimes the work we do brings up really hard truths. In fact, most of the time it does. Perhaps someone needs to take responsibility for something harmful that they're doing. This isn't going to feel good for them. In fact, it's probably going to hurt a heck of a lot. But you aren't doing them a favor by not telling them about it. And if they hurt when they receive this information, well, that's natural and only to be expected. The fact that they are hurting means you did your job. You aren't a failure if they don't heal physically either. Because, guys, no matter what you do, you don't heal. You are a facilitator. We call ourselves healers because, well, the terminology makes sense. It's a lot easier for people to grasp than I am a facilitator of energetic healing. But you're not a healer. You are the channel through which healing occurs. And so you can do all the right things. You can ask their body all the right questions, move the energy all the right ways. And the client may still not want to allow healing. Again, illness serves a purpose. And so these folks may not yet be ready to learn from their illness. It isn't often that I work with someone and there isn't at least some physical improvement at the end of a session, but when this is the case, it's usually because the client just isn't ready to let something go. And this is okay. Readiness occurs in stages, and so when this happens, I just content myself with knowing that at least they've probably been brought into contact with something that will help them heal eventually. And one day they'll be ready. 2, guys, God only knows what the universe has planned for your clients. Perhaps fear led them to you rather than their hearts. Maybe they were forced to go by someone else, and you aren't actually meant to help them. Perhaps their illness is supposed to take them to a mountaintop someplace on the other side of the world to experience something absolutely transformative. And when the time arrives, their heart is going to lead them there, which is different than fear leading them to you. So you have to take your ego out of your work. You aren't a bad person if they don't feel better after, and you're not a good person if they do. You just do your job to the best of your ability, and how they feel is how they feel. You are not responsible for the outcome of the session at its core. So if you are able to get this, you aren't going to keep that energetic door open. You're going to do the work and let the outcome be what it is, knowing that the client is not you and their journey is their journey, and they are just as strong as you were, so they can handle it just like you did, and you don't have control over their experience anyway. So when you're working with your clients, 1, make sure you aren't over-identifying with them. They are not you. And 2, you are not responsible for their feelings. All you can do is what you do, and the outcome is going to be what it is. And you just have to be honest. Again, sometimes stuff is going to come up that they don't want to hear. Oh well. So we're going to wrap up part 2 here, and you're going to be able to find parts 3 and 4 on this channel. As you've seen, this information is intense, so you may wish to take a day or so between each video to really let it digest. If you watch all 3 videos and need further assistance, as I mentioned in the other one, I've created a brand new session to help people work with these concepts. You'll be able to find it on the services tab of my webpage, which is www.ravenlightholistichealing.com. If it isn't there by the time you watch this video, it's just because at one point I went, I don't feel like doing these kind of sessions anymore. So I hope it's still there, but if it's not, let me know that that's what you're interested in, and maybe we can figure something out. I'm sure I can adapt one of those sessions to meet your needs. Also, I am not going to be answering questions about the contents of this or the other 3 videos on YouTube or email. If you are interested in this stuff, you will have to schedule a session. And if you're just interested in me and the work that I do, then please feel free to like my Facebook page, which is Ravenlight Holistic Healing. If you look for my personal page, you're not going to get an answer back, so look for the business page. And I will see you guys, at least I hope I will see you guys, in videos 3 and 4. Cheers, my darlings.